Hi, and welcome to the Girl Boss Life Academy. I am Dr. Marcia, and I am your Master Destiny Life Coach. And I specialize in helping women to discover who they are, to decide what they want, and then to deliver on their destiny. But what is a girl boss? And I believe every strong woman is powered by the girl boss inside, who is strong, who is tenacious, who is powerful, but who also needs to be encouraged, who also needs to be supported, and who also needs to be loved. And that's what we do here at the Girl Boss Life Academy. And so we help you to redefine who you are, help you to refocus on your goals, and also helps you to redirect your path so that you get to that destination. I remember when I needed that life coach, the decades upon decades of me not knowing the answers, me not feeling confident to make the decisions I needed to make. And so that is what we do here at Girl Boss Life Academy. I use my transformational coaching method to help you to boss up both in life and in a leadership. For those that are ready, go ahead and click and register to get my free gift to you. And you can also learn more about the coaching program. It's time to boss up both in life and in leadership. And good evening and welcome to Up Sis Up. This is Women's Empowerment Radio, and I am your host, Dr. Marcia, and I am the girl boss, and I'm also your Master Destiny Life Coach. And so here what we do at Up Sis Up is that we help you to rise up. We help you to speak up, and we help you to boss up both in life and in leadership. And y'all, we made it to 2024, and this year the theme is saying yes to more in 2024. We're talking about open doors. We're talking about more opportunity. We're talking about leaving the past in the past and going forward to our future. And I'm bringing powerhouse guests onto the stage to share their transformation, to share what they have coming up for 2024, to share how they got from where they used to be to where they are. And so I'm bringing them here just to give you some gems, to give you some tips, to give you some encouragement, to give you the gas, to give you to push you into your next. And so without further ado, I am going to bring to the stage my guest, Natalie Demerson Watkins. And when she comes to the stage, first of all, hold on. Let me just bring her to the stage. Welcome, Natalie. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Marcia. I'm doing wonderful, and I'm just glad to be here with you today.
Awesome. Good evening tonight. And I wanted to have you just introduce yourself, who you are, what is it that you do for the listeners.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Demerson Watkins, and I am a life and transformational coach. What I do is I help women move from that healing process after miscarriage and infant loss. But I had an aha today. I actually do more than that, and we'll get more into that in this interview. But really, I'm just helping people to heal from where they are to where they want to be. God has given me so many gifts, and I am saying yes to more in 2024.
Yes, let's hold on. This is going to be the euphemism saying yes to more. Okay, yes, saying yes to
Yes.
more in 2024. And you mentioned you're helping women heal from infant and newborn loss. Okay, and as I say that, as I repeat what you said, that sounded like you were told no in your life. Can you, before we get to the yes, can you say more about your story and the no's that you got in life?
Yes, my story is actually one of infant loss and miscarriage. Those were the no's that I had in my life. I mean, yes, we had a lot of yeses. And when I came to this point of my first miscarriage in 2012, that was like the first no. No from what I perceived God saying no to me, to the doctor saying no, not this time. And even to myself at some point during the journey, I said, you know what, I'm just going to stop for right now. But my journey started in 2012 when my husband and I, after having our first child in 2009, we decided to try to have another baby. It was actually part of our yes plan. It was part of the journey that we planned for our life to have 3 to 4 children, 3 years apart. And so in 2012, we tried again and unfortunately had a miscarriage after about 5 months. And this was so devastating to me because I had never experienced any type of significant loss in my life. And so with that, it was like, okay, how do I bounce back from this? And really, it was a journey of learning how to surrender my control, seek who God is to me, and then move forward with how I heard him say move forward. So in 2014, actually 2 years later, I heard the voice of the Lord to say, okay, it's time again. But after 6 weeks, I had another miscarriage. And at this point, I totally didn't get this one because I asked the Lord, okay, when do we start? Let me just be still and be obedient. And this was another no. But I'll tell you, this month I've been reading the story of Job, and God is enlightening me so much about even Job's story and how that mirrors with my story. Sometimes our no's are not because of anything that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
It's because God wants to build something greater in you. And so that's what I've learned even through the journey. So in 2014, we got that no, but really bounced back quicker and really wanted to exercise faith in trying again in 2015. And this is when I got pregnant again and had a baby at 26 weeks. So she was extremely premature. However, she lived for 14 days. And that was enough for me, really. I said, okay, she's living, she's breathing. I can put my faith to action. But unfortunately, yes, she passed away in 2014, in 2015. And that was the actual experience that knocked me on my butt. It really took me to this place of ground zero, of shattering. The Bible says that God is closest to those who are broken and have a contrite heart. And this was the experience that really revealed to me who God is beyond the God that my parents taught me to love and to know. But this was the God who was my healer. This was the God that could build me from a shattered place and then reconcile my faith and rebuild me to this woman that I am today. And but that 2015 was the journey that it took me about 4 years of learning who I am, learning who God is, rebuilding in my story, forgiving myself, forgiving the doctors, forgiving everybody who I thought did me wrong. So in 2019, I felt like, okay, I'm no longer afraid. And whether I have a baby or I have a miscarriage, I'm going to trust the Lord. I'm going to love the Lord. And I'm not going back to that shattered place. So in 2019, we tried again after hearing a prophetic word of you will have a baby and this baby will live. And so in my excitement, I took that word and I ran with it. And I said, okay, let's try again. And I had a miscarriage. And I didn't quite understand that, but it was in 2022 that I got the clarity of who the baby and what the baby is that the Lord was telling me. And that baby is my company, Anchored Life Academy. And what we do is we serve in so many different capacities, but the one thing that I have been talking about is my journey of miscarriage, infant loss, but the transforming and the healing that comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
So those were, in a nutshell, those were the no's that I got, but we will talk about the yes
Yes,
that I
yes,
received.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm seeing some, some prayers in the chat, and so thank you for that. Um, so let's go back. So yeah, I think you said two miscarriages, then the birth, right, and then another miscarriage, right? Is
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
So I know that you were able to use your faith, and faith is a big part of how about your life and how you have moved through it. But I want you to talk to those women, those families, even the men who are listening. how do you how did you process through that first miscarriage? How do you do that?
Well, I leaned into my community. Number one, I have a very supportive mother and father, my sister, my brother, my husband, because he was going through his own journey of grief, and then also trying to be strong for me. So, leaning into the people that surround me was huge. Um, I think for the first miscarriage, I leaned so much on my faith because that's my solid foundation. That's where I knew to turn. I cannot remember. No, I did actually. I went to some support groups. So there are support groups locally here in my city that help families go through loss. And this particular support group really helped us to process in a way that would promote healthy grieving, and where it made it okay and safe to grieve. Again, I told you this was like the first significant loss. So I had to learn how to process grief. And so through some of the support groups and, counselors, they were able to help us with that. But I'll tell you that my faith was the first place I turned because God is in control. And I had some questions.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And as you and we've had conversation before today, and whenever I hear your story, it's not something that is always right at the surface, but I go back and I remember my miscarriage, and I didn't have any therapy. I didn't have any groups. I didn't. I just you sit home, you get a few family members to come over, but I don't think I ever really processed it all the way through. And so as for those that need you in this moment, what would maybe what are the steps, or what are some of the nuggets or gems that you can drop in addition to leaning into your faith?
In terms of processing, I would say really to get clear on what it is that you want. I know through this journey, I've had to have some of those what we call come to Jesus meetings and really speak to what is it that I want. Am I trying to prove something? Is this genuinely my heart's desire? Am I pursuing for me having another baby because my husband wants another baby or because my parents want grandchildren? I had to get clear with what it is that I want. So I think part of that is having that self reflection and having that time with yourself. You have to give yourself time to grieve, you have to give yourself time to feel. And I think that was actually a benefit for me. I didn't mention this, but in that first miscarriage, I was going to work. I was going to my corporate job. I was 5 months pregnant, very pregnant. People knew that I was pregnant. And so having to go back to corporate and I don't have a baby and people expected for me to bring home a baby, there was a level of shame and there was a level of guilt that I carried. There was some weight that I had because I felt like people just didn't care. But really, people didn't have the language to support me because they didn't want to make me sad or make me feel uncomfortable. When what I learned is it really brought me great joy when people acknowledged that they saw me and
Mm-hmm.
that they cared. So I think part of what I've learned in this process is advocating for myself and speaking up for what I need. That has been healing for me. And then letting people know, no, it makes me feel good when you want to talk to me about my babies. So yeah, that would be it. I mean, doing a lot of self work, I think, has been major for my
Mm-hmm.
healing journey.
Mm-hmm. You said something very telling, very big, is that people don't know what to do. People don't know whether to
Yeah.
say something. People don't know whether not to say something. People don't know whether to speak. People don't know whether they should cry with you. They don't know if they should bring up the baby's name. That people just don't know. And the flip side of that is the personal side of you when you do see that family with the newborn, when you do see the baby carriage, the baby buggy, the baby on board sign, right? When you do get the notice that someone's having it's a gender reveal thing. So how do you balance those two?
Yeah, I can tell you that I haven't always been where I am now. Like, I'm speaking from a place of healing and transformation. But I can remember in my first miscarriage, my cousin was pregnant at the same time. Our due dates were within 2 weeks, and she went on to have her baby, and I lost my baby at 5 months. Was I angry? I was. Did I ask the questions? Why is it that my husband that I married, that I felt like I did all the right things, if I can say that? Why did we lose our baby? So I think for that, I had to give myself time to just get away because I didn't want to lash out at anybody. And the thing is sometimes we can speak prematurely and we can never take words back.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we handle the anger that comes with miscarriage? Because there is anger, sometimes there is jealousy. You have to really take a step back and give yourself, again, that time to heal. And I love my cousin and I love my little cousin now. I mean, when I see my little cousin, it brings me great joy that, they went on to have, her, and it gives me, just a reminder that I have a baby waiting on me that's
Mm-hmm.
about that age, that, so I, giving ourselves that time that we need is crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And what you said also is that as each new event happened, each new loss happened, you now were you had a shorter time of bounce back. You were developing some strength, some
I would say
resilience.
that. Yeah, I would say that. But like I said, when my baby lived for 14 days, that was really something different because I got to experience her.
Yeah.
I felt her, I changed her diaper. I spent 14 glorious days with her. But I can remember when the doctor said, she has a limited amount of time. I can remember coming to this place of peace where I released her. We were holding on to her with prayer. We were. I'm going to say because I didn't want her to go. And I felt like, man, she made it. We can pray this a miracle. We can pray her out of this. But at some point I just released it and the Lord gave me so much peace in that moment. And I felt so strong as we gathered around her NICU bed and my family was there. We were singing and praising and giving God even the glory in that. Um, but it was those days after, I think, because I was really processing and it was like, okay, this is my life. This is my story. So that story, that event, that loss took me some time. I said 4 years because I was then going back to ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
Like that loss, Rosalind Grace is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Rosalind, who lived and then she died. Oh, I had a lot of questions for the Lord because he let her make it. And that's actually the blessing in it. Like she made it. I have pictures of her. I have a story that I'm telling all across the world about my baby, Rosalind Grace. So she lives because I can tell her story. So um, that was very difficult because when you experience someone and feel them and touch them, and it's just something different. But it was another level that
Yeah.
God wanted to take me through to show me that he is Jehovah Rapha, my healer, in this capacity. So it was just really it was a depth of healing that he was teaching me through that.
Yeah. And there's something that just came to me, and I don't know if this has um, ever been said to you. So you said that the Rosalind Grace, her being here, that she made it, right? And it did something different. But I want to say to you that in that pregnancy, that you also made it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned about, having sadness, there was guilt, there was another emotion that you mentioned,
Shame.
shame, right?
Yeah.
What God was showing you is that your womb works.
Mm.
And he's priming it for not only for Rosalind, but for all of the other birthing that needs to take place.
I received that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So good.
Yeah. So with that, yes, that's a what's woosah. Just take a cleansing breath. Okay. And I can see
Yeah.
some applauses in the chat as well. So something you mentioned earlier, you said um, your Anchor Life Academy, you help women who are to heal, who are dealing with infant loss and miscarriage, right? But then you said there's more. I do more than that. I want you to take a few moments and tell us what that means.
Dr. Marcia, this has been a day of aha moments. And just to hear this theme of more in 2024, it aligns with what I've just experienced today. So, some of you don't know, and I didn't tell you, but I'm a software engineer. And what I do is, um, okay, so we don't want to talk about the engineering piece. I help bring technology solutions. And so, like in my church, I serve as the pastor of social media and technology. And the Lord actually 15 years ago gave me this idea about bridging the gap between technology and worship. Hey, y'all, this was before
Hmm.
COVID. Okay. And I sat on that. But 2018, I started introducing things to my church like conference line, Facebook Live. So we had already pivoted before COVID. COVID really helped us to level up and do a more strategic solution for having church online. And so he's bringing that back up this year. It's like, okay, yes, your story is one of healing from miscarriage and infant loss, but you have so much more to offer. And God has really put it in my spirit and challenged me like, you need to go back to what I told you to do the first time. Go back to that. um there's more in 2024. I've had a successful marriage for 18 years. I've been with my husband for we've been married for 18 years. We've been in a relationship, never broke up from high school at 15 years old. So we've been together 25 years. And there are women who need to know, how did you do it? How are relationships even in loss, in miscarriage? How did y'all stay together? So that's something that I have to offer. Um, I'm a very analytical mind. Dr. Marcia, I've worked with you a few times and you've helped me to just kind of loosen up because I'm very structured. I can help someone to lay out a strategic plan for whatever they want to do in life. Maybe it's health and wellness. I'm actually on my health and wellness journey, and I would love to share all of the things that I'm learning because I like to learn. I like to know the details. And when I know the details, then I can teach someone else. So I really have a heart to teach and to really enlighten and bring people, as I said this morning, out of obscurity. I want to bring you out of the darkness into the light. And I know that all of these things that I've mentioned are wrapped up in my sole focus, and my sole purpose is to give God glory. So, all of these things, these gifts, these talents that He's given me, I'm just going to speak out even the more in 2024 to let people know what it is that I do and what I can offer.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And as you are sharing, and what I hear is that you're going to do more in 2024 because God has placed more in you. And that is true for every person that's listening under the sound of our voice, that's in the chat, who's listening to this on a replay on YouTube, on the MSC network, wherever it is you're listening to it, you have more. I know for me, I lived underneath of my potential for so many years because I was trying to stay in my place, right? I was trying not to drive from, well, no, to get out in front. I'm trying to drive from the back seat. which is problematic as well. However, there are there was more in me to do. So as you move forward, I just want to celebrate with you. You know, you got the aha moment and all that you're doing in church. You mentioned faith in church um, a few times. I want you just to kind of share with us what your role is at your church. You know, shout out your church and just kind of just give us a little tidbit.
Sure. So my church is Pentecostal Temple Church of God in Christ here in Amarillo, Texas. What I will say, one thing I want to just caveat is for so many times in business, I had this conflict of how do I do business and how do I do ministry? I felt like they had to be separate. But I'm learning that you're Natalie, this is who I am. And I'm a church girl. Okay. So whenever we do business, you are going to get what's inside of me. What's inside of you is going to come out. I might not ever say Jesus, I might not ever say church, but you are going to feel the characteristics of God because that's who lives inside of me. So, all that to say, I thank you for having this space where I can freely, without conflict, talk about my God, my business, my church, all the things. So at my church, I do a lot of things, Dr. Marcia. I am, as I mentioned before, the pastor of social media and technology, but I'm also a drummer. So I play the drums. I lead praise and worship. So I sing. I help my husband as much as he wants me to with the child ministry, so the youth ministry. But I kind of said, okay, I'm going to focus on the technology. And if you need me over here with the youth, then I got you. I am also bringing some of my coaching skills that I'm learning to bring training to the church. Really, I mean, I think there's a lot that we need to train about. I mean, from finances to what, as I was telling you earlier, this month we're in consecration. So I want to coach people on how do you do or lead corporate prayer effectively? How do you build a successful prayer life? And it's really about that consistency. And, so just bringing some of the knowledge that I'm learning from the coaching industry into the church, because again, I want to edify the church. I want to edify people, and people make up the church. So, yeah, I didn't mention, but I'm a pastor's kid, so I've done it all. I've cleaned toilets. I've been at choir rehearsal, at Bible band. That's what we call it in the Church of God in Christ. So I've done all the things in church. But I just love to serve the people of God, however, the Lord will call me to do it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And this definitely is a safe space. And I fully get the trying to not trying to keep them separate, but feeling like you need to keep them separate. And but then it's who you are. And so I was a pastor's wife for 15 years, so I understand that piece of it. And I didn't clean some toilets myself. I didn't kids church. I haven't driven. I have driven somebody home, but I haven't driven them in the van. But we're transportation. We're part of the culinary. We do. And then at the drop of a dime, we're praying for somebody. So I get that, and I always say that we are our brand. So there is no taking parts away. It's just who we are, and how it comes out is how it's going to manifest. So I appreciate you sharing your story, and those that are faith based, I know appreciate it, and I'm looking to God to continue to work through you so that you can bring more to the house of the Lord as He continues to feed your business.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
And I'm
welcome.
looking for more in 2024.
20 more in 2024. That's what we're talking about. All
Yes.
right. So let's pivot here. Okay. And I know you talked about infant and newborn loss, and we had a conversation recently. You had a couple of deaths in your circle, and so we started talking about just grief in general, and how does your program also just deal with grief in general?
That's such a good question. So my program is broken into three different phases. And that first phase is really about that grief support and supporting a woman where she is now. So we do some in-depth learning about the grief process, helping a woman to identify where she is now in that process and why she may be feeling some of the emotions that she feels, why she may be physically doing some of the things that she's doing. So we take some time, 4 weeks to be exact, is the first phase of just understanding grief and supporting her where she is. But what I will say is my coaching program is about bringing her through that because we don't want to stay in that grief. We want to be able to live even with grief. You know, we hear in the Bible where he is the God of joy and sorrow. And so you can have grief and joy, and so I want to teach women how they live with this and how they can still thrive and be empowered. So yeah, we spend some time, 4 weeks, in the grief, and then learning how to take care of ourselves in grief, because in grief I remember I gained a lot of weight. I didn't get out of bed. There was some times where there were conflicts with me and my husband because we were both grieving and we didn't know how to be there for each other because we were both um, very introspectively looking at what we were going through. So we spent some time in that process, in that phase, talking about what can happen in grief, your relationships, your health, the process, all of the things.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's good. You said you can be grieving, you can have grief and joy at the same time. And right now, some people's brains are like, "What? How can you have grief and joy?" So I want you to answer that question. Say you lost a loved one, you lost a child. How can I have joy?
It all boils down to, what do you believe? We got to go back to, what is my belief framework? What do I believe happens after death? That's where we can start. My faith tells me that this life is not the end, that there is a life eternal. And so if I believe that my loved one who has passed is leaving this life as we know it to a better life, I have joy. And I know that we all will go some way. This is what I believe. We all have to go some way to that eternal place, whether it's going to be through death or whether it's going to be that we are raptured up when Jesus comes. We've all got to go some way. And to know that this life is not the end, I got to really make sure that I don't hold so tightly to the things of this world, because there is a greater life. So that's why I can have joy that my loved one is no longer suffering. They don't have to go through all of the hardship that we go through in this life. Yes, there are some good aspects to life, but there are also some very hard moments. And that gives me joy that they no longer have, they're going to a place of no more tears, no more sorrow, no more pain. So that's what can give me joy, even in grief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because there's two, I guess, two places, two, I don't know, positions of grief, right? There's the grief of the person, whatever they were suffering with, and they've gone on. But then the grieving process is for us, right? It's us centered. Because now we're losing, or we lost that person, and now we're going through the process of kind of resetting to what we call the new normal, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm no stranger to grief. My parents were both killed in a car accident in 2006, and there was no closure. Um, closed casket, all of the things, and there was some other things that happened kind of leading up to it that really kind of shook me. And I went to counseling a few times, but it wasn't anything that was, I didn't feel a transformation. I think it just took time to
Yeah.
kind of move through it. And I remember you saying that it took, after Rosalind passed, that it took you 4 years to kind of get rewrited. What do you think would have helped, and what do you think is, there is no time limit, but what would you say to someone who is still several years into their grieving process?
I think they need someone to help them through that. If at any point you feel like you've done all that you can do and that you're stuck, well, now it's time to wave the white flag and say, I need help. Did I get that help? I did. I leaned so much into um, my faith. I'm going to say that. And I know I've said that so many times. Did I go to therapy? Did I go see a counselor? I didn't. But I had a godmother. At the time that Rosalind died, my godmother was battling cancer. And through talking to her, that was therapy. But she was really encouraging me, even in my hardship. She was showing me by example that she was pulling through. And thank God she's cancer free now.
Mm-hmm.
I talk a lot to my sister, who is actually a PhD student. So is uh, she is learned in social work and in psychology, and so she could help me to put knowledge to what I was feeling. She was helping me to see what it is that I was, going through in the journey. So we continued uh, with leaning into community and into my sister and into my pastor, my husband. So if a woman feels stuck where she is, I think you've got to really speak up and say, this is what I need. I need help.
Yeah, needing help is definitely a cry, right? We cry. Sometimes we cry out loud, and sometimes we cry quietly, or it's that silent cry. And there is I don't know, is it maturity or is it awareness? What would you say is the difference between someone who asks for help and someone who doesn't?
I think it's both. First, you've got to know, be aware that you need help. One thing about miscarriage is it is a silent topic and nobody wants to talk about it. And my coaching program is called Voice of the Womb because it's helping to encourage women to speak. This is a safe space for us to talk about what's hard. So you have to first be aware that you need help. And then, in order to accept that help, I think that takes a level of maturity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. And thanks for articulating that. So important, such good nuggets. So Natalie, I want you to tell me who is it that you help?
I help mother first. So I help women with their transformation journey after miscarriage or infant loss. I believe if you help mother first, then father will be helped, then any children or siblings will be helped because mom is the heartbeat of the family. So that is my number one focus. But there are some, I've had this idea and I'm trying to get my husband, he's actually a football coach. So if it's football season, he's probably out. If it's basketball season, he's been basketball season now, he's probably out. But there is a space for the men to be able to have conversation around what they are feeling. So even in the program, in who I help, I bring in my husband to have this conversation with the brothers because they need to know that there is another man who has gone through this thing called miscarriage and infant loss. But my number one focus is for the women. But I think if you help mother first, you help a family, you help a community. So that's who I serve and that's who I help.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said that the moms were the heartbeat, and if you can get them, um, I don't know, is the word get them healed or on the process to heal
Whole. Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
then the rest of the family will come along. I love it. Okay, so if someone has had a miscarriage, they've had a stillborn or infant loss, even if they've had grief from another source, how can they reach out to you?
You can reach out to me by my social media handles, which is on Facebook and Instagram. My name is Natalie Demerson Watkins there. You can follow my company, which is actually behind me over here, Anchored Life Academy. That's both on Facebook and Instagram, and also our website, www.anchoredlifeacademy.com. One thing, Dr. Marcia, that I didn't mention is I want to make a greater impact even in the hospitals and giving people the tools. We talked about the language of how to support people, but sometimes you just don't know what to give. So I've launched my nonprofit, which is Anchored Life Foundation. And the effort or the program under that is called Anchored Mamas. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a beautiful box of, it's like a hug in a box. There are some goodies, there are some life sources for women who have had a miscarriage or infant loss. And my vision is to give these to the hospital so that they can gift these to women, because I know what it feels like to leave the hospital empty emotionally. You're empty because you don't have your baby. But then the hospitals will give you a pamphlet of, okay, this is some resources. But nobody ever reached out to me to say, hey, how are you doing? Or how can I support you in this? So that's what Anchored Mamas wants to do, is really give women, connect women with me so that I can help support her through that journey, but then also give her some tangible items, affirmation cards, a journal. I have some keychains that says mommy of an angel, daddy of an angel, because I don't want to leave the dads out. There are just some really, fuzzy socks. It's a hug in a box. So that's what I'm doing with Anchored Life Foundation. And really, for people that align or connect with the message or the mission of who I serve, I invite them to connect with me. And maybe they, haven't had a miscarriage or infant loss, but they want to donate or support the cause, support the mission, help me drive this mission forward. Anchored Life Foundation is also there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You mentioned your foundation, and I have seen you have been kind of on a media tour. Can you tell us kind of where you've been and where you're going?
Dr. Marcia, I've been here locally in my city of Amarillo, Texas. We had some time during the month of baby loss awareness, where we were hitting all of the news outlets, and we were letting people know about our in-person event, which I had for the first time in October last year during this month of awareness, where women came into a room to get that support. And it was 3 sessions of women just coming. And the feedback that I received was good. There were some women that have never processed their loss. Sometimes as women, as you said, we just pick it back up and we get back to work. We sweep it under the rug and we keep on going. But really having this in-person intimate event was good, because women were able to come find like-minded women who understood their pain, their journey, and be empowered. So yeah, we had our news tour, and then having our in-person events. But in 2024, I'm looking to get more speaking events outside of my city, really to help drive my mission and my declaration that sinking is not an option. I think so many people are gravitating to that declaration. It's more than a slogan, but it's really, this is what I'm living. Like, I'm not going to sink, I'm not going to fold, but I'm going to do more in 2024. So that's what I'm looking for in 2024. I'm coming to Maryland, Dr. Marcia.
All
I'm
right, come
coming
on, come on.
to where you are. But yes, looking to just have more opportunities to share the message.
Yeah, love that. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned the tagline or the mission or the pulse is sinking is not an option. And we've heard about Anchored Life Academy. We heard about Anchored Life Foundation. We heard about Anchored Mamas. Okay, tell me about the anchor and how that I see the anchor behind you. How did that all of that come together?
That's a whole nother interview on its own. But I'll tell you this: before I had Rosalind Grace, and actually I had her at 26 weeks, as I said, at 24 weeks pregnant, I was actually up in church singing a solo, preparing for my husband to give a sermon on what do you do during the storm. That was his sermon title. And I was singing this song by, I can't remember his name, Douglas Miller, that's his name. And the song is My Soul
Soul
Has
has
Been
been
Anchored.
anchored. In the
Y'all
little.
remember that song? So that's an old school song, but I was
Yes,
singing that song
yes.
when during that solo, I had this pain in my side and I end up having to go to the ER to do some things to have Rosalind. Well, that song was what I was singing, not knowing that we were about to go into the storm of our life. My husband was about to preach about a storm. I was singing about an anchor, and I was in the process then of having my baby 2 weeks later. Didn't know. But over the course of time, after she passed away, I had this recurring dream of me being on a boat. And I would ask the Lord, why am I on this boat? What is like, why do I have over like 2 weeks? I had this dream of me being on a boat, and I started asking the Lord questions, kind of like dream interpretation. What is this boat? What is this? What is that? What is this? So I saw this bright sun, and he told me Jesus is with you. That's the light. On this boat, he reminded me that you're on this boat, but the waters are peaceful. So I asked, why am I on a boat? And he said, because you've been through a storm. In that dream, I saw a rope. And I said, okay, Lord, what is this rope? He says, because I want to take you to another level. And I got nervous saying, I don't know how to climb a rope. It took me back to PE. Y'all remember we had to climb ropes at PE?
Look, look.
I wasn't
Hmm.
climbing ropes. But he told me, you don't have to climb. And I saw his hand. He said, just take my hand. And he brought me up to the next level. And so that took a few iterations, a few weeks of asking God questions to get clarity. What is all this about? Why am I on this boat? But he assured me that I've been your anchor. So when I talk about the conflict of business and ministry, it can't, because this is all founded on what God has brought me through. And even now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm getting more freedom and I'm getting more clarity
Hmm.
on my message. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
will not silence what God
Yes.
has done for me, because
Yes.
it's all because of him that I'm here. And that this baby of Anchored Life Academy, I've birthed her,
Hmm.
I've delivered, I'm moving, I'm nurturing her, and
Hmm.
she's living and thriving.
Yeah. Yes. And the song says, "My soul's been anchored.
Oh, yeah.
My soul's been anchored." And as you just spoke, what you just spoke, your business is anchored, right? Your message is anchored, right? And he's gonna keep carrying you through. You know, one storm, one stroke. That's a better one stroke after the next.
That's right. I just got to keep moving.
Gotta keep moving.
As I
That's right.
move, he gives me more.
Yeah.
As I move, he elevates me.
Yep.
So I can't stop.
Can't
Like,
stop. Can't
this
stop.
is
Won't stop.
what,
Yep.
that's it.
Yep. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is when um, the Israelites were crossing the Jordan, and this time when they were getting ready to cross, the waters weren't parted, but they had to be obedient, and the 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 instructions were for the ark to be carried by the priests. And it wasn't until they put their feet in the waters, which were actually, it was high season, so the waters were higher than normal. It wasn't until they actually put their foot in the water did the water start to recede. And so this is a faith walk, and as you say, you're not going to get the next step until you've accomplished the piece that he has told you to do.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we get ready to close, I want you, Natalie, I want you to give the listeners three three take homes, three messages, three maybe affirmations, something that you want folks to leave with from this interaction today.
I want people to leave with they matter. Their story matters. And they don't have to silence their story based on how they think people will receive it, because there is someone out there that will receive your message, that will hear your story, and that will be empowered by your story. Number two, sinking is not an option. When you decide to say yes, then God makes the provision as you move. It's really a test of surrender and obedience. When you are obedient, God will provide. So do not worry. And number three, what I will leave is that the best is yet to come. This is not it. And God wants to do even more. So we have to stop limiting ourselves um, and dumbing down. Don't be afraid to be great. Don't be afraid to do more and to be more. So those are just some of the things that are resonating with me, even in this season, that I would share um, with the listeners.
Thank you for that. And so we're talking about saying yes to more in 2024. And you are the best. You're a good person to ask this question. You kind of spoke to it a little bit, but I'm gonna frame it. Okay. When we're in a faith-based environment, there's a theme that we should not want more. That we should be content slash complacent with what we have. It's okay for all of them to have what they are getting, but for me to want more, that there's a problem. What are your thoughts on that?
This is speaking back to my aha from today, because I have been in that space where I didn't want people to know I'm successful. I didn't want people to know that, yeah, that's my car over there, because I didn't want people to think, and hear me, people, okay? I didn't want people to
People.
think that, yes, that maybe I was greedy or haughty or had this high minded. Jesus was a lowly servant. No, Jesus was actually rich. I mean, he was able to go and preach the gospel. He didn't have to go work in the carpentry shop. His needs were provided, like he was being provided for. We think about Job, he was very wealthy and upright. So we can have both because we serve a God. What does the word say? Ephesians 3 and 20, that does exceedingly
And
above
abundantly
abundantly above all that we can ask,
ask or
think, or
even think.
imagine, according to what? The power that works in you. So it's a lot of times where we have limiting beliefs and we're worried about what people think. Let's think about what God says in the word and then walk that out. So the aha that I got is it's okay to want more. I think we have to be anchored in our why. Why do you want more? Is it to be seen? Is it so that people can give you the glory and the kudos? Well, if that's your reason, then yeah, you need to readjust
Right.
and reassess. But as I thought about, okay, so why do I want to make six figures and beyond in my business? Why do I want to make a huge impact in the world? It's because I want the peace of financial freedom. I want to be able to move, live, and have my being seamlessly as I impact the people that God has given me to impact. I want to make his name great. And in order for people to know that I serve a big God that does big things, I've got to show up doing big things because I'm going to always point the glory back to him. So that's what I say about that. You have to understand why you want what you want and then be unapologetic about it and give God the glory at the end.
Yes. Ooh, let's give it some. Give it some. Thank you so much, Natalie, for being here. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing more about Anchor Life Academy and the foundation and all of the good things that you are doing. Again, if you are in need of the services that Natalie is providing, please contact her. She's dropped her information. Go ahead and give them the contact information again.
Natalie Demerson Watkins on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find my company, Anchored Life Academy, on Facebook and Instagram, or you can hit us up on the website, www.anchoredlifeacademy.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Natalie. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Marcia.
And there you have it. That was Natalie Demerson Watkins from Anchored Life Academy here on Up Sis Up Women's Empowerment Radio, where we are lifting up the women, but also the men as we help you to rise up, as we help you to speak up, and as we help you to boss up. I am Dr. Marcia, your master, a destiny life coach. You can reach me here every Tuesday on the MSE Network. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. You can also follow me on social media at Marcia Burnett Whitaker or Info Bloom Health and Life coaching, and also on the website www.drmarcia.com. Good night, and I'll see you next week.